want to ask Samuel a question here. I've seen a lot of people in the comments say maybe some of these players that Chelsea have bought, they rate the Caicedos and Enzos are just not up to standard. Do you think that's more it, or are you siding more here with Don and what Ches is saying, that the manager's kind of getting this wrong tactically, or is this about maybe Chelsea's players are not up to scratch?
It's a bit of both. I think that Chelsea fans have overrated some of their players, but also do believe that Poch is not helping himself. I'm going to take you back to the 1-1 win that Chelsea had in the beginning of the season. I always said this. Chelsea fans, do not get gassed over this, because Liverpool had a midfield that was completely different to what we had at the end of last season. McAllister first time playing at the CDM role, Gakpo playing in the number 8, and then you had Szoboszlai playing first time in the midfield. Now you had everyone gel together. Look what happens. Also, on Poch. Now, I always say this. I hate playing Chelsea because Chelsea never give us space. Hence why we keep getting draws against them. This time, what did Chelsea do, which I expected them to do, but it capitalized that we capitalized on them because we play well against people that play high line against us. What would you think of trying to play a high line against a team like Liverpool? It doesn't make any sense. So again, as I said, a bit on the players, but it's a bit on Poch, because what I commended Poch for in the beginning of the season, and I said this on stream, was that Poch actually played, I think, 5 at the back, who played a little bit deeper and played more compact, and it made it a little bit difficult for us. This time it was too open for us. Of course we're gonna win.
Yeah, but we were chasing the game, bro. We had to have a higher line because the deeper line wasn't working in the first half, and that's why we played the way we did. That's why you boxed us in. We had to get higher up. We had to get higher up the pitch, bro. And like I said, straight away. Hold on, man. Yeah, go check the stats at halftime, bro. We had like 0 shots on target. We didn't create nothing. Do you know what I'm saying? In the second half, when we actually stepped up and you guys dropped back because you realized, right, it's not Palmer up top anymore, it's in Cuckoo. Yeah, we were starting to actually go forward and attack more, and we created a chance literally within like 5 minutes. We had to have.
I also do believe that we dropped back.
I've got to disagree with that. Bro. We had to come back.
I also believe that we dropped back because of the fact that in parts of games we allow other teams to have the ball, just so that we can actually just sit back and say, do you know, you go and do what we didn't really need to do anything. We were 2-0 up. We didn't really need to do anything. It was you guys that needed to have that impetus.
So then you're contradicting yourself.
I go back to what I said in the beginning. Wait, hold on. I'll go back to what I said in the beginning. Our midfield dominated yours completely. Our midfield dominated yours.
Sam, who's playing in the game we played the first game of the season? Who played in our midfield the first game of the season when we played you? You tell me. Who played in our midfield the first game of the season when we played?
Gallagher.
Who played in our midfield the first time we played you?
And Carney. And it was Carney. Carney started that game.
That was the first time we ever played together in a random free midfield. But I don't know what that point.
What did I say about? Hold on. What did I say about our midfield? What did I say about our midfield?
So was ours is bad too. I don't get it.
Why were you focusing on that? Just
I've realized as well.
What Sam is saying is that he's seeing the evolution of our midfield, how they're gelling together, how they're starting to play together properly, how they're starting to make passing plays together. And like you compare it to yours, where you have Enzo, Caicedo, Gallagher, and even if you want to put Palmer in there because he was dropping into the midfield. Like you guys, I think the tactic was you tried to dominate the midfield and you just didn't do it because your players didn't want up to scratch.
Here's the problem as well.
Here's the ball, bro. They were getting pressed off the park, and that's my point. They were getting pressed off the park, bro.
Don, I don't know if you, Ches, and Surf will agree, but I almost feel that Caicedo's also left on an island of his own because, especially in the second half, when Gallagher went off, you have Cole Palmer that drops in the midfield, but he's not defensive-minded, and the lack of Enzo's athleticism leaves Caicedo always exposed. He's having to do everyone's job, and you just leave holes in your midfield, and we obviously expose that. That's where I think Chelsea side have a problem, and I know a lot of your fans say Gallagher can't start, he's not good enough, but that's why he starts, because I think when Cole Palmer, Enzo, and Caicedo... When Caicedo, Enzo, and Palmer are all in that midfield role, Palmer's not defensive minded, and Caicedo's always left by himself. He needs that extra guy to run around for him, in my opinion. I don't think he can do it all by himself, and you're seeing it now. And it's also down to Poch's tactics as well.
Enzo's not defensively proficient, mate. Enzo's not defensively proficient to play next to Caicedo. If you want someone to play next to Caicedo, you got to have someone that's able to sit with him and be able to be defensively proficient. And Enzo's not that guy.
The thing is, though, Poch is not consistent in his picking. I don't know how good these players are. I know how good these players are because Poch is not consistent in the way his tactics are.
And that's why I asked the question to Sam to prove the point that we haven't had a stable front midfield three this whole season. So when you're saying what midfield you played, our midfield hasn't had time to gel because you keep changing it up.
Guys, can I throw something in then? I get what you're saying. You're not blaming the players, you're blaming the manager and who and how he's picked the team. But when I see rivals or Chelsea fans say you've got to sack the manager, I hear, no, we've got to give him time. I don't. If you're blaming the manager for him ruining what is a really good squad by not being consistent, what's Poch doing it? If he's the reason, in your opinion, that it's being ruined, I don't understand why there isn't more widespread criticism for him.
The reason why is because people don't want to have another sacked manager. People are worried about, look at the pool of managers, they'd rather just stick to something that could change than starting something brand new. That's the only reason why I'm not hearing more Chelsea fans say Poch out. The only reason. Not because of trophies, not because we can get Europe. It's people who don't want to sack him and have another process again. That's it.
I get you on that. G, from your point of view, when you look at the difference between Chelsea and Liverpool, obviously they've spent a hell of a lot of money. What was it today, in your opinion?
I think listening to the Chelsea, listening to Dom and Chez and Winter Surfer, like I kind of hear their point about if Poch constantly keeps changing the team, so whether that be the midfield, the attack, the defense, whatever it is, for whatever reason, I don't know why, if he keeps changing it, there's zero continuity. So your players don't even have time to constantly, even attempt to gel, at any given point. So when you're looking at a game like today, whether they, again, I don't know tactics wise what they were trying to do, but if people are saying maybe they were trying to dominate midfield and all of that kind of stuff, I don't even feel like that would have been his necessary game plan, because he would have understood what it's like to play against Liverpool. I feel like he probably would have tried to maybe sit a bit deeper and be a lot more patient at times, as opposed to trying to just come out and play football and do this and do that, because he knows what Liverpool, kind of about. But again, I don't really know when it comes to Chelsea, but tonight was just really about the intensity. The athleticism from Liverpool this evening was kind of top notch. At times, especially when we kept losing the ball. Anytime we lost the ball, it was that boom, we got to get back. And then what you then start to find is Chelsea, now there's gaps appearing from anywhere. We saw with Bradley's goal. What happened when Jota got the ball? We lost it. We won the ball back. Diaz is obviously dribbling. What happens? Passes it into Bradley, into space. There's no Sterling. Chilwell, I have no idea where he was at that time or at that point in time. So, yeah, it's just a lack of intensity. But then again, maybe it's just about the imprint of their tactics and what they're trying to do. I don't know. I don't know.
Here was a tactic in the first half when we had a goal kick. It was passing to Thiago Silva or Badashile, very slow out from the back. Pass it to a fullback. Try and pass it to Caicedo, who was nearly on the penalty line, so deep, so there wasn't any space. It wasn't working because you were pressing too high. So why not stop that tactic?
But I feel like maybe because I feel if you're trying to with that, I can get that purely because you're trying to draw Liverpool out, because that we do push up high and we leave gaps in. But that's where the problem. That's where the problem.
You can draw people out with fast passing, but if it's too slow and you keep pressing, he didn't change it. So we didn't change it. So why not then mix up and just hit it long? I know no one's out there, but just hit it long. Change the tactic.
Andrew, on that, the reason why I cannot hear what Don and Chez were saying about the midfield, I understand. If you keep on chopping and changing the team's play, you wouldn't give them enough time to gel. But what Chelsea fan would have complained with the lineup in the beginning with Caicedo, Enzo, and Gallagher as that midfield three? What Chelsea fan would have complained about?
Especially Enzo and Caicedo in a double.
Exactly, in their proper position.
So I don't think they played. I think he hardly played him in a double pivot this season. He seems to play Caicedo centrally as the lone 6, and then Enzo off to the left a bit higher up, and then whether he lets Gallagher off the leash to go chase a frisbee or whatever the fuck he does in the game. But the problem was though, the problem with this false 9 is that Palmer's not a natural 9 or a false 9. He likes to drift all over the place. In that first half, or he was nearly in his own half the time, or he was out on the wing where Noni Madueke is. So you're leaving this whole space on the left-hand side with Sterling by himself. The whole point of a false 9 is to try and get the wider players in, a bit more connected to that false 9. But it wasn't happening whatsoever. So the tactics didn't work.
Chelsea certainly need more experienced players, but I was watching the game tonight, and it's just hit and run. Knock the ball, run.
Hit and hope.
A bit of hit and hope. A little bit of like knock the ball and run onto it. A little 1-2 here and there. Whoever's free, if someone's free, give them the ball. There's no purpose. There is no pattern. There is no. I was watching the Spurs game as well tonight, and there was a moment early in the first half where Porro turned. And when he turned and he only had to look up split, and he knocked the ball into Richarlison, who knocked the ball back to, I don't know which midfield player it was. It could have been Bentancur. And then passed the ball out to Kulusevski. It was 4 or 5 moves, really, really direct. But you can tell they'd worked on that. The way Brentford scored their first goal against Tottenham, it was capitalizing upon a mistake, but making sure they're in the right positions. They'd worked on that. With Chelsea, I think you've got a lot of good technical football players, and you've got a lot of good young talent, but there isn't. Sometimes you knock the ball around beautifully, put a bit of pressure on you to stop you from being able to move the ball, and there's no tactic. It's almost like there's no game plan when the going gets tough. Of course, because you've got talented footballers, there are times when the football looks good, but it's become less and less consistent at times. And of course, you'll play some lower level teams. You've had a good little run, and you should have some good runs. You spent £1 billion on this talent. You should have some good moments. But for how long Poch has been there, not a big enough identity is starting to form, in my opinion. And you have a few good steps forward, but today was a massive step backwards, in my opinion. And I do agree with the guys. The consistency of chopping and changing and moving people around. I mean, why is Gusto starting on the bench with someone that isn't a right back?
He's only just come back from injury, but starting.
Mate, yeah, if you're generally speaking, when you're on the bench, you're fit enough to play. I kind of get Nkunku, and Nkunku's had a lot of time out injured, but you play the guy as an example. If Bradley wasn't available, Trent's starting today.
Right.
He would have had to have played. It's too big a game.
And then Terry, in that sense, if you want to manage minutes, even if Gusto started and you could start to see fatigue and you didn't want to risk aggravation of the injury, that's when you take him off around at the 50th, 60th mark. So I always believe in that notion as well. If you're on the bench, you're fit enough to start, in my opinion.
It's just,
yeah. Listen, and as I say, look, I think there's multiple reasons. I don't think it's as simple as just sacking Poch. I think he's got to improve. You definitely need more experienced players in this team because the young boys at times today look lost in that team. But it's
our experienced players are crap.
No, I hear you. I do hear you. I think you need new experienced players, but the young players get lost. But you knew what Liverpool were going to do. They were going to press and counter press.
Right. We knew.
They're going to move the ball quickly.
We all knew what Liverpool were going to do. Our manager didn't know what Liverpool were going to do. That's the big difference.
Exactly. And even Pep, who for the first few times he went up against a good Klopp team at Anfield, didn't change how he played. Pep does now. But I can't go there and just keep playing our football because it's very hard to do. G said it at the top of the panel that you can't go to Anfield and completely express yourself. The best Man United team we've ever seen, when Liverpool weren't even very good, very rarely went to Anfield and expressed themselves because it was hard to do. And tonight, with the Klopp news, the rivalry with Chelsea, there had to be a game plan. And there was nothing tonight from Poch. And these players got hung out to dry. Now, that isn't letting them off the hook because there were some individually poor performances in what they did, in what you're doing. But there was no remedy and no answer. And that would worry me with a manager that's been in the job now long enough to get those plans in action.
Terry, in about 20 minutes, he's going to say the guys tried their best, so it's all good. We move on to so it's all good.
I hear that one.